Making a video. Yeah, string of video responses. I think I'll just pile them in here for whatever, however long the camera lasts. So yeah, it's just so depressing. So anyway, Carrie McCarpet, the lovely and such. But man, I don't know, it goes all bad here. So this title is incorrect here because the browser isn't working correctly. But anyway, she's making some video about this hag here who's bitching because she went vegan, I guess, or well, she went vegetarian. It didn't work out for her, and so now she has a whole commentary on it. And it's kind of funny just because you say, well, yeah, you know, you can't really argue with the statistics. I mean, there's literally billions of people on Earth who have a substantially vegetarian diet, and they do just fine. And it's just, you know, when somebody rags about how it just ruined them, it's just kind of silly. Anyway, this part was just awful on both sides. I mean, it just went all wrong in so many ways. This is WAAM, Whammy, I guess. Talk show host guy of some sort of louder chowder. Yeah, well, whatever.
He was talking about how she hated meat and it was cruel. And then she goes, plus, I just don't want whatever's on your plate because that's just dead. My food is living food. And to me, I was thinking,
yeah, well, that's kind of a silly argument anyway, so whatever to that. Yeah, the plants are usually substantially dead. Okay, they're not plants anymore. The fact that the cells are still alive, well, guess what? That's true if you ate raw meat. The cells in the meat would still be alive, but whatever, who cares?
I don't see the irony that your food dehydrator is the Auschwitz of asparagus.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, so it says, yeah. They're going to talk about the Auschwitz of asparagus. Now, number one, I mean, to bring up Auschwitz in comparison to the plight of asparagus. All right, let's add up all the neurology, all the neurons possessed by all the Jews tortured in World War II, and compare it to all the neurons that asparagus has. Let's see, 0 and 10 zillion billion times the speed of light squared. Gee, that doesn't seem like very difficult math. But I guess it is for these people, because these people are called what's called humans. And humans are butt ugly and stupid as fuck.
and this is dead. You're right, it's dead. And it was actually picked up from the local farmer's market, and I knew it lived a good life. I mean, could one argue that if you're going to sort of create this moral equivalency between animals and humans, which I don't believe in. I don't believe that animals are on the same playing field as humans. I believe we're smarter. I believe we have a space program and light bulbs. So let's start with...
Okay, so let's start with before 1700s then. 1600s when we owned slaves. Were we really smart then? You know, when we were having surgery without anesthesia. Was that clever? The plague, cholera, all created by brutal human conditions. Is that all brilliant too? And then you could go back thousands of years when we were, you know, 20,000 years before civilization. So you're saying those animals, those humans, didn't know loss, didn't know grief, didn't know all the basic emotions, weren't after the same exact things we are, hunger, horny, actualization of some ego gratification. I mean, you're just, you know, it's just so... I don't even know I don't even know how to write imbecile loudly or highly enough in big enough letters to qualify what this is. This is imbecilic nonsense. Animals aren't... Yeah, fuck you. You aren't, asshole. You aren't worth it. That's the truth. You're not worth it, Mr. Poofy Hair.
that. Could you then... Isn't it pretty easy to then create the moral equivalency between, if we're all the same, why would plants deserve... any less consideration than the animals above them or humans?
Neurons. I mean, you people really don't know what a brain is, right? You don't know what a mammal is. You don't know the difference between a mammal and a plant. You don't really. You really don't understand that sentience. So we have 100 billion neurons, 100 billion of them, and you just think they're superfluous. They don't really do anything. We spend substance of our energy is consumed by our brain. To do what? Blink our eyes? You don't think it's doing something like creating consciousness with all that energy? Creating monitoring, controlling senses, sensation. And the plant's equivalent is what? 100 billion, almost 90 watts worth of energy, 80 watts worth of energy burned. Where's the plant equivalent to that 80 watts? Oh, that's right, it doesn't exist. And you're an idiot. And you're an idiot.
Well, this was the problem I had when I was a vegan, because I didn't want to make those hierarchies, and yet I was. So meat eaters would sort of taunt me with that question about...
So you didn't want to recognize that neurons are a fact of biology, and that consciousness is a phenomenon that is very fragile, and that it isn't something our cells are doing, my finger isn't doing. No, I have to be conscious, and that all you have to do is jiggle this brain a little bit and the consciousness radically changes. It forgets who it is. It has no notion of right or wrong. It's completely confused. That doesn't mean anything to you fucking retards? Those facts?
Well, what about the plants? And I never had a good answer.
Oh, you didn't have a good answer. I just, and apparently she doesn't have a good answer, which surprises the fuck out of me. The good answer is they don't have a brain. That's not a good answer. Not having a brain is not a good answer to the why is it not conscious question. So really, you think I could possibly, in the future maybe, they'll have technology, and we'll be able to just cut my head off, throw my brain in the garbage, and I'll still be me. Because I don't need the brain. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have anything to do with me being conscious. Fuck.
Oh, Kelsey, please, because your powers of deduction are so good about everything else, aren't they?
If you don't have enough predators eating the ruminants, they will turn the place to desert. And every single being in that cycle has a role to play in terms of making life more abundant and giving the entire community more resilience.
That's not even true, but whatever. It's not a fact of any kind. There's lots of environments that have very few of certain classes of organism living in them, and it does just fine. Because they find a balance some other way, because it's built into our nature. Like, even if predators didn't kill us, we would still die. Why is that? Oh, that's right, because that's what evolution requires, is that the parents die. And their kids die. Because you're all a bunch of sadistic lunatics.
So I don't make a hierarchy. I just say we all have a role to play, and
yeah, whatever. So role play by nature's rules. Okay, let's all put on a play, everybody. Who's gonna write the play? Oh, nature. What college did nature go to? No college. What grammar school did nature go? No grammar school. Does nature know how to read, write? Does nature know what a concept is? Does it know what a plot is? Does nature have any clue whatsoever? Or is nature just going to take a shit? And we're going to act out shit as the play. Oh, that's what we're going to do. And we'll have a role to play. You can be the biggest piece of smelly shit.
should do that very gratefully, because life is...
Oh yeah, I'm so fucking grateful to a non-existent crude force. Yes, thank you, crude forces. Yay, slaughter some more stuff. Yay, death and destruction, cancer, mutations, deformations. Yay, 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 yay. God, I hate you, scum. I mean, it's just so clear we haven't crawled very far from the edge of the scum pool. All those neurons, and this is the shit they talk. I mean, holy fuck, maybe the brain is superfluous.
Amazing thing. But I'm an apex predator. That's the role.
Oh, she's an apex predator. I'm entitled. I'm entitled. Yes, because I'm super cool. I'm an apex predator. I know how to put a rock on the end of a stick and beat an animal to death and then throw it in a fire. Oh, fuck.
That humans play, just like...
Right, okay. I just wish some apex would apex all over you, bitch. I just, as I have stated previously, I just hope you get exactly what you deserve. Get exactly what you give, bitch.
Wolves, just like bears, and...
Bears are substantial. Well, it depends on the kind of bear, of course. I mean, polar bears are meat eaters, but, you know, regular black bears are vegetarian mostly. Mostly.
You know, our
And if you don't count the fish, they really are vegetarian.
job is to do that well.
That has nothing to do with veganism. Some animals
Well, I'm sorry, it has everything to do with it, but go ahead.
are predators, and they keep, say, a herd of cattle or a herd of gazelle healthy by picking up.
Oh, this is just so disgusting. They don't need fucking lions to keep them healthy. Okay, humans don't need predators, predation to keep them healthy. Okay, all you have to do is attrition. Attrition will take care of it. You don't need some thing chasing them down when they're a week old or 2 months old. That isn't really a good test of the quality of the individual. Frankly, you could have had a gazelle that has twice the brain capacity, and because it runs slower, because it has twice the brain capacity, it gets killed. That's not exactly in the interest of the herd. So many improvements in your herd would get destroyed by this artificial predation of you're just in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time. And that's 99% of the predation. So bullshit to that fantasy argument.
Off the weakest ones. Are we doing that?
No, we're not doing that, and that's not what nature does. It doesn't have that much to do with weakness. If you actually look at the film of animals getting chased down, they're not all that weak. And the ones that get killed are usually just sick. Right? I mean, the ones that are easy kills, right? They got a worm in there, something does something, their brain goes loopy, they can't walk straight for a week. So they're just being killed by bad circumstance. They get a cold at the wrong time.
Are we hunting in a natural way? No. Are we natural predators? No.
So who cares? Who the fuck wants to be a natural anything, frankly? I mean, what is this shit? This is not the argument. The argument is a simple ethical argument. Should you create organisms to house in concentration camps for your consumption and convenience? It's a simple fucking question. The answer, guess what, is no. You shouldn't fucking do that.
You can make a
Healthy, unhealthy, I don't give a rat's ass. What we were, who cares? Irrelevant. So is this argument going to be some stupid argument that if we actually were lions and we got intelligence first, or we were tyrannosauruses and we got intelligence first, that we'd sit around and just sit there and rationalize and excuse it because nature made us that way? Because nature made us that way, that's what we'll do? So if it was natural for men to rape, if it was actually natural for men to rape, would you rationalize fucking goddamn rape?
general observation about nature, but you can't prove that we fit in as predators because we don't. Honestly, if that was our design, I would say it's a cruel system, but we can't help what...
Okay, there you go. So you just did it. You just basically did it. Right? I mean, many organisms in the real... many mammals in the real world actually do commit rape. And so you just justified rape then. If nature made you that way, you can't help it. You can't do any better than that. Go ahead, rape. Fucking bullshit.
We are, let's just do it. But the fact we have sympathy for
I mean, it's just amazingly stupid. And again, it's not sympathy, it's respect. Again, so again, let's use the right vernacular. I don't give a shit about what you feel. I don't care about how cute it is and how it invokes some sort of compassion in you. It's a fact. Animals factually feel suffering. It's just a fucking fact. And you either respect that fact or you don't.
Animals shows that it's not our design. The fact that meat kills us through, heart disease, diabetes, linked to dementia, etc., shows...
So do donuts, but whatever. Who cares?
That it's not our natural diet. We could go into all the other anatomical stuff, but it's quite basic. Everyone knows it by now. And here's the thing. In many cases, when we eat fruit or whatever, we're helping the plant because it wants us to take it.
Again, it wants. So before in the video you were explaining how plants really don't want anything, and now you're just doing the want thing. So it's just kind of silly, all right? It just doesn't matter. Obviously, we've broken all of the evolutionary rules. We wear condoms, we do all kinds of things. There's no connection between... every banana is a clone. Is that a natural way of reproduction for bananas? No. So let's just not pretend that we have to somehow connect our existence to some sort of natural rule of parasitism in nature. Because everything is a parasite in nature, that means we have to be parasites? No, it's not true.
It's fruit. But in cases where you eat, say, a potato, that's the plant's entire life force. And when you pluck off its leaves, it doesn't want you to take the leaves because that's how it gets sunlight. But
I don't think anybody would be eating no potato leaves. They're not. I don't think you can eat potato leaves. I mean, maybe a deer can.
here's the thing, we naturally don't feel bad about doing that. Now, we may be wrong in the way we perceive the world, and maybe these plants do suffer a lot in a way.
Yeah, well, why do we say that? Maybe. Why do we say maybe that's true? Why don't you just say maybe Goldilocks and the Three Bears really existed? Maybe there's the Wicked Witch of the West. So why don't we just make up any kind of preposterous nonsense, and that way we can completely blow up all policy or all kinds of rationality, because we'll just say maybe whales fly, maybe the Earth is inside out, and maybe the Jolly Green Giant needs to blow his nose. I mean, who cares? This is just such fucking bullshit. Maybe plants feel. Maybe based on what? One shred of fucking evidence. What one shred of evidence makes that a reasonable maybe?
That we can't understand. But the reason we can't...
You can't understand. Well, then why are you talking? Why are you saying anything? If you think there's a whole giant universe that you don't understand, then I don't know. You probably shouldn't be opining. You should be saying all over the place, there's so many maybes. There's so many things I don't know. I'm completely uncertain about everything. I don't know what the hell's going on. Here's my opinion. I mean, does that really make sense? I don't know anything. This is what you should do. Yeah, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense. You either know what you're talking about or you don't. You either know, you think you got it pretty close to right on, or you don't. If you don't think you got it pretty close to right on in a world where you're going to make up any kind of maybe, and maybe's as preposterous as maybe plants feel, well, if you can get that wacky, there's no limit to your wackiness, in my opinion. You don't have one shred of evidence. There's 9 million tons of evidence that you have to have a fucking brain to have a consciousness. So why the fuck would I sit there and say, go ahead, opine all over the place? No.
see that is because we're plant eaters. We're not designed to feel sympathy for plants.
Oh, again, now sympathy is a design. So now we're not even using our intelligence to understand circumstances. It's my intelligence that makes it possible for me to see things that are right or wrong, because I can understand contextually what the thing is. I can see it. I can see its true colors, so to speak, through intelligence. And that changes my native behavior. So I don't have native crude reflexes. I have much more sophisticated reflexes in terms of how my brain reflexive interprets perceptions of things. Things in pain, things in trouble, things in harm's way. Where if I was a dumb animal or a dumb human, I might not be able to do that. I wouldn't see the context of, oh, that could be my sister. Or, oh, that could be my brother. Yeah, I can see context because of my intelligence. I don't have a philosophy built by nature. I don't think anybody called intelligent would have a philosophy built by nature.
And so that's programmed into us, and for that reason, I feel okay.
No, there's no fucking programmed into you, okay? There's hunger, horny, and ego. And what's programmed into you has a lot to do with whether you're smart enough. You have conceptual notions and ideas that are based on scientific evidence that give you contextual information to realize what something is. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between something with a brain and with not having a brain until you know the difference between having a brain and not having a brain. What something looks like when it has a brain. These are things you have to be able to identify.
Eating plants because I'm following my program, because this is how predators feel about killing.
I mean, it's just so stupid. Do you think gorillas and orangutans and bonobos, you think they'd go on murderous genocidal raids if they had a conceptual understanding that basically, wait a minute, that tribe 2 generations ago, my grandfather's brother went to that tribe, so I've just killed my uncle's kids, my nephews, my nieces? You think they would act the same way if they had that understanding? No, I don't think so.
The animals, it's their program to do that, and they don't feel bad about it.
Well, again, I can't believe this nonsense. I'm sorry, but this is just nonsense. You know. Well, why read books? Why edify if you're going to rationalize behavior based on some sort of native conditioning? There is no such thing.
See a lion showing signs of remorse. But in answer to that question, how can you assign a hierarchy? Well, I just listen to my instincts and I follow those. And
Well, shit. Then again, why bother having... Why bother doing anything? Why bother making videos, having intelligent conversation if we're going to go based on some fucking kind of instinct? I don't, frankly, personally even know what the fuck you're talking about. But frankly, I didn't have any instinct but selfish motherfucker. The only instinct I was born with was selfish motherfucker. And the only thing that made me anything better than a goddamn fucking selfish motherfucker was the fact that I learned context, and I learned that I wasn't the only player in the game, and I learned that every action has a reaction. These are things I fucking learned to escape my fucking nature.
the foods that don't make me feel guilty. Very simple answer, arsehole. He's presenting it like some lofty philosophical question. No, it's just a case of deferring to your human nature.
Well, fuck you. I don't want to do that, so I think it's a lousy argument. Deferring to human nature is a lousy argument in this circumstance, especially when the people you're arguing with think we naturally chase down wildebeest, bite them in the neck, and eat their flesh off, and then chew their rip their flesh off, their hide off, and then chew their flesh. Yeah, especially their pancreas and their gallbladder. Yeah, I'm sure humans can digest gallbladder.
Most people actually who try it give up in 3 months. That's what the studies show. And I did not give up for 20 years. And
Right.
in the process, I completely destroyed my health.
Yeah, right, sure. Anyway, so that was the only part I wanted to get. I probably could find something else that is absolute rubbish in here, but I really don't want to do that. So anyway, most of the video was all moving right along quite adequately. She was making quite rational responses, and then all of a sudden we go into loony territory where we're supposed to do what our natural instincts are. Just let intuition lead the way. Oh, fuck. Hopeless. Anyway, my browser's not working very well. Alright, so off to, I guess we'll do Hawthorne Day first, because this is short. It's all so disgusting and horrible. Somewhere around here, I believe. We'll do... Alright, so this is basically the Benatar asymmetry. Losing satisfaction, not bad. Because you don't know you missed it. You won't miss it. Getting rid of harm, suffering, good. Equals +1. It's not complicated. The Martians aren't missed. Why aren't the Martians missed? Because the value of rainbows and sex and all that kind of stuff really only has value to you. Okay, it's a personal thing. You're addicted to it. And you really don't understand pleasure to be something other than something to be enjoyed to gratify your need for it. But once your need doesn't exist, the universe doesn't weep. There's no hole left. There's no deprivation. There's no negative created because of this absence of your rainbow joy. Clearly. And we clearly demonstrate our hypocrisy by not weeping for the absent Martians, not enjoying the fun rainbows.
Back in the day. This is the table. This is the table that Glynos.
Alright, absence of pain, good. Absence of pleasure, not bad. Those were the key words. There's not a negative to be without positive. It is a negative to have negative. There you go. So you get rid of negative, it's a positive. You get rid of positive, it's not a negative. Makes sense. It's not painful to be without satisfaction of a desire you never had. Yeah, it's just not painful.
Glynos represented. And you'll see here in the never exists column that even though we have no existence of sentience, we somehow get a positive good value.
Alright, so analogy. Many times people find out that their fetus is broken catastrophically, and they choose not to have it. Now their choice not to allow it go to term is because they understand they will be preventing the harm of it being birthed into the world conscious in some kind of horrible condition for which it will suffer greatly. They understand they are preventing harm. Now obviously when they don't have the baby, the harm never happens, and so it can't be prevented the second time or some other kind of crazy thing. It can only be prevented once. And the realization is that the simple equation is that whatever value of living would be experienced, it is not of substantial enough substance to justify the pain that would be endured, and that the sensible and rational thing to do is prevent the harm. So again, this absence of pain is the same thing as saying prevention of pain. Good. Alright, so just change this word to prevention, and then maybe you can understand it. Prevention of pleasure. It's not a bad. Get it?
So,
I mean, prevention of a pleasure that isn't satisfying a deprivation that would be left behind if you didn't prevent it. So obviously if you prevent some pleasure that's needed in the real world, if the need exists first, well then you're in trouble. But if you prevent the pleasure by preventing the need for the pleasure, then it's all win here. It's all plus numbers. You did the positive of preventing the pain, you did the nothing of eliminating or preventing the pleasure.
what is to prevent me saying this and dismissing this as, yes, but it's not real value? This equation has, I mean, I think it could.
Well, again, there's just no point. It's not real value. So preventing a rape isn't a real value, right? If I kill a rapist, one could argue, okay, I've prevented the rape. Let's say I killed a rape victim. One could argue, okay, that the only thing lost is her not needed now life experience, and what has been prevented is the suffering of the being raped. Let's say it's a particularly violent rape. It's the same equation. It's one that seems uglier in the sense that you seems like you're losing something, but you're taking it away from an existing person. And isn't that the problem we're really talking about? Is that existing people sense entitlement. They sense something that belongs to them. They have a hold of their life. Their life is their possession. And to lose it would be a negative thing. But that again is just psychology. So you want to argue the psychology of addiction? I mean, heroin addicts will say, I'm doing fine, when they're not doing fine.
Also for other mathematical reasons. But I think this is quite a knockdown blow to...
Knockdown blow. So again, do I have to come up with other analogies for the prevention of harm for you to understand the prevention of harm? If I stop somebody from dumping toxic waste in the Great Lakes that would poison the water in 150 years, have I done nothing? Or have I done something? I think obviously I did something, not nothing.
Benatar's argument, in the face of, if it is true that that the only real or absolute value is that of the creation and the feelings of existing sentience.
Yes, those are the only values. So he's applying this somehow to my statement that these are the only real values and the rest of the value is contrived projections of value. But once again, just change these words to prevention of pain, good. Prevention of pleasure, not bad. There, do you understand now? I mean, fuck. This is just so stupid. I mean, these are just rationalizations. I mean, your people just are so desperate. Ugh, it's pathetic. Alright, so let's finish up, I hope. There's just so much of it, right? Alright, this guy. So I don't know what I'll do with this. I don't know if I want to play this whole video because it's rather bad. Yeah, it's rather... Well, anyway, let's just play it from, let's say, this point.
And I think we should talk about offensive stuff, but admit, you do get upset when people say, well, you're an antinatalist, why don't you kill yourself? And this is a similar kind of question to that, but, you know, it needs to be answered. Basically, the answer is, And again, you're not going to like it, but it's the joy of having that child in the first place.
The joy of having the child in the first place. So, well, I have to go back to the question. There was this, would you give cancer to a kid?
It would make it easier to point the camera at myself and start filming. But
yeah, we'll get a lens, so you're back a little further.
Here's a video. My last video was called Hythloday the Antinatalist, and that garnered some responses, both from Hythloday and from Inmendum. Now, I'm not going to go into all their individual objections in this video, but Inmendum said one that he repeated, so I guess we'll have to address that first. Basically, his question was, what projected psychological desire is worth giving a child cancer?
Right, so the joy of bringing the kid into the world is worth the giving a kid cancer. So to have the fun of making kids and saying, oh, look, it's my kid, you would give some other kid cancer. For your selfish gratification of some sort of notion in your head that the kid needs to exist. It doesn't need to exist for any real reason, just because it's a notion in your head. You feel good making babies. And that's worth giving some other kid cancer. And that's the same as asking an antinatalist, why don't you kill yourself? Which obviously doesn't solve the problem of nataling. I didn't get here because I didn't kill myself before I existed. Not killing myself wasn't any part of this problem. The problem was always somebody else's decision. I'm not here because I did something wrong and I need to correct me for it. Okay, I'm not the perpetrator. Duh. That's what the subject is. Who's the perpetrator? Ah, the nataler.
That's what I think about it, is that the cancer patients, for them, the benefit of existing is still greater than the cost.
Right, and so that means something again. So you're just going to buy, here's some examples of what humans think is reasonable or rational. Why should that impress me? There's humans right now macheting other people to death for genetic reasons. Are they rational and reasonable? There's people right now like yourself, justifiers of capitalism, exploiting the fuck out of people merely because there's too many of them. So because too many show up for the job, they just totally rape them in the ass and get them into a bidding war to drive down wages. That's good because people do it. It's therefore good. It's rational. It's reasonable. Perception of reality. No. Because some lunatic is addicted to living doesn't mean much to me. Sorry. It's like a heroin addict telling me heroin's great. It just doesn't mean anything. It's irrelevant.
Even if they have terminal cancer. So,
then the subject, to isolate the subject, to make it as obvious as possible in terms of the imposition part, that's where you should go, okay? Again, explain how you have a right, not to create somebody who wants to have cancer. It's okay, give me cancer, I'll eat it. No, it's the person who doesn't wish to have cancer, doesn't find it pleasurable, doesn't say, oh, this was great fun, oh, it's all worthwhile. That's the person I want you to justify creating.
there's that, and maybe we're going to benefits and costs of life a bit more in this video. We're going to talk a bit about environmental economics.
Well, why don't you just get to it? Alright, so I don't know what he's going to do with this video, and I don't feel like turning the camera on and off and having to upload the video and then put it back together and all that kind of crap, so I'll get back to this one later. Ugh. So anyway, enough on here anyway, right? Yeah, I've had enough anyway. Very disappointing. Everybody's an idiot. God. It's just... I wish I lived on Planet of the Apes. You can almost reason with Dr. Zaya. You people are just too fucking stupid.